Greetings and welcome to another episode of the Accidental Farmer Podcast, a podcast that brings you the real dirt on farming. Today, I am privileged to have Noah Nasiali, an Agritech innovator and social entrepreneur. I will now read his bio for you. Noah Nasiali is a visionary leader in agriculture, technology, and climate action, dedicated to transforming the agritech landscape across Africa. With a deep passion for empowering farmers, he has pioneered groundbreaking initiatives that drive sustainable agricultural practices, innovation, and resilience in the face of climate change. As the founder of Afarmers TV, Africa's first online agritech TV station, Noah has revolutionized access to critical agricultural knowledge. Within its first 18 months, the platform reached over 5.5 million viewers, becoming the go-to source for farmers, industry leaders, and policymakers seeking insights on sustainable farming, climate action, and technological advancements. Through extensive farmer education programs, Noah has spearheaded over 6,000 farm visits, workshops, and training sessions, equipping farmers with the latest agritech solutions and climate-smart techniques. His efforts have significantly improved productivity, income, and resilience for countless agricultural communities. Committed to fostering innovation, he established the Agritech Leadership Center, a hub designed to drive research, collaboration, and the growth of sustainable agritech practices. This initiative is set to provide a dedicated space for innovators, entrepreneurs, and policymakers to shape the future of agriculture. Noah's ability to forge strategic partnerships has amplified the impact of his initiatives, enabling knowledge exchange, resource sharing, and cross-sector collaboration. His leadership in innovative climate action has positioned him at the forefront of promoting carbon sequestration, biodiversity conservation, and sustainable farming practices across the continent. His work has gained global recognition, solidifying his role as a thought leader at the intersection of agriculture, technology, and climate action. With a relentless drive for positive change, Noah Nasiali continues to champion solutions that empower farmers, enhance food security, and build a sustainable agricultural future for Africa and beyond. Welcome, Noah. How are you?
Very fine.
Hey, that's quite a bit you've done there. Eh?
I didn't even know that is me.
Well, apparently it is.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You've done a lot around agriculture.
Thank you. It's been a long journey.
It has been a long journey.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Noah, I want to ask you first, how did you get into this thing called agriculture?
Very interesting. When I married my beautiful wife,
yes.
I saw some challenges that my father-in-law was facing.
Okay.
He was one of the best tomato farmers in Athi River in Machakos County.
Okay.
And my dad as well, being a sugarcane farmer
yes.
Back in Western Kenya.
Yeah.
So my background being in technology, thought of building a tech solution for farmers. And along the line, I came across design thinking. And so I thought one of the best ways to get the knowledge that I really needed and the data is to jump into farming and practice myself so that I could be able to design a system that could work for me as a farmer as well. 17 years later, I'm deep inside farming.
With all its ups and downs.
Yeah, a lot of downs.
Okay.
A few ups, but I think as we continue discussing today, it will be sometimes we don't realize the ups.
Yes.
We focus so much on the downs.
Yes.
And we've been comforted that you have to fail to succeed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody once said that if you focus on the problems, all you see are problems.
Yes. Absolutely.
So we should focus more on the opportunities.
Yes. However, agriculture is very challenging.
Yes.
And why it's challenging is because everybody wants to get into agriculture. We don't do it as the only standards that are set are probably pesticide use. But there's no standards of who is an agronomist. There's no standard of the knowledge that a farmer needs. There's no standard of where farmers will sell.
Yes.
Everything has been set, When people discuss, when it comes to policy, we have very brilliant policies in Kenya. Some of our highest qualified academics are in universities across Africa. sitting, and so where is the disconnect? So there's a disconnect somewhere in agriculture, especially in Kenya.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're saying in terms of policy making, we are probably one of the best in the region, if not in the continent.
Let me use an example of the Holy Book.
Mhm.
It has never changed.
Yes.
It has never changed. But you see so many new churches, so many. So where is the problem? The problem is just understanding.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the policies, I think we have brilliant policies
Yes.
in Kenya. However, the policies are way up. But the consumers, the people who are supposed to benefit from the policies are the smallholder farmers who do not even know the policies. So they don't understand what is right, what is required of them, and what is supposed to be done for them.
Okay.
That's when you hear a bonus for tea and coffee. It sounds like a very good thing.
Yes.
But nobody's coming there to tell you, oh, how many kilos of tea are you getting per plant?
Yeah, the yield.
The yield. What is the yield of a tea plant? Right now, it is in Kenya is 0.8.
0.8
kilos per tea plant.
Yeah.
However, it should be 6 kilos, the standard. So when I get a bonus, is the bonus helping me regenerate my soil to get 6 kilos? So I might not need the bonus if I can get 6 kilos per plant. So the disconnect is there. Yeah.
And why is there what is the deterioration? Why are we now doing 0.8 kilos per plant instead of 6 kilos? What's going on?
We focus on the yield. We focus on sometimes I think we focus on the wrong things because we don't think about repairing our soils. We don't think about, and I've seen you thinking a lot about organic. We don't think about our soils. We think about the crop that is in season and we need to fertilize as much as possible to get the best yield. Yeah. But the next crop is going to fail. So we don't go back to the problem. Yes.
You mentioned earlier there's a clamor. Everybody wants to get into agriculture.
Yes.
Do you think we all want to get into it because we think it's easy or easier than other investments?
We think it is easy, but we also don't think it requires a lot of work.
Yeah.
So we think you will plant 1 acre of onions, you'll put drip irrigation, you have water, you'll get a farmhand who is being paid probably 8,000 or 10,000 and expect 1 million shillings.
Yes.
It doesn't work that way. I've seen it, and I've seen it because I've failed so many times. Yeah. In fact, even on our way, we were talking about the same thing. Like, do you have the same standard? Yeah. Do you have if you want 1 million shillings from your farm in 1 acre, do you have an employed agronomist who understands what is required?
Yeah.
And then where then do you get this agronomist? For you to start a pharmacy, you need a qualified pharmacist.
Yes.
But what about agriculture?
But there are pending bills that are coming up that might address that. They're saying that there are going to be bills that we have to have certified people. When somebody is called an agronomist, they have to have some sort of certification, and then they'll be allowed to practice their trade. You think that is going to change things, the way we do things?
I think they can, but we have 330,000 people who have graduated the last 20 to 30 years, qualified, having a certificate, diploma, or a degree in agriculture.
Okay.
But when talk about agriculture, it's very interesting because some of the courses that are in our tertiary institutions are things like related to food.
Yes.
The same people are still called agronomists. They're still called extension officers.
Yeah.
But for me, when I talk about the need for this to change is at the ward level, at the lowest level of administration in a country.
Yes.
We need to know, is there an extension officer who can come to me as and when I require? Is there a farmer field school in my vicinity where I can go and learn? Why is agriculture? I mean, when we talk about agriculture, it's very interesting. Most doctors, their kids would love to be doctors.
Yes.
Lawyers, such like professions. But very hard for you to get a farmer who the kids want to be farmers. And yet everybody thinks that they can make very quick money in farming because they think it's a season-based, short
term.
And for sure you can. Yeah. Joe, I've made some money in agriculture. Yeah. However, it is like any other business. So we don't treat it like any other business.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the same thing, when you look at somebody I normally take an example of 3 doctors.
Yes.
There's a doctor who's very good at treating patients.
Yes.
And in the evening, puts the coat on the door and leaves.
Yes.
There's another one who's very good at managing the other doctors.
Yes.
They're still doctors.
Yes.
And then there's the one who's very good at managing the hospital. So we as farmers, what are we good in? Are we good in making sure that our nursery management is really good? Do we seek knowledge? And I think when you mentioned to me about the accidental farmer, I think I was on the road and I was like, that is very interesting, because then we can get to talk about this. Then the other thing is, I think most of the time when you talk about farming, it is always on the negative effects that has happened to the farmers.
Yes.
But we have not taken the responsibility to ask ourselves, we as farmers, why did we really fail? Like, for example, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I planted cabbages, 75,000 cabbages. And on 6 acres in a place called Kamulu. I was given a contract. So I planted the cabbages. The cabbages were very big. You know, one cabbage was like between 6 and 9 kilos.
Okay.
So 75,000 cabbages.
Yes.
I waited for the person who gave me the contract to come and pick the cabbages.
Yes. Which was part of the contract.
Yes. She didn't show up.
What happened? What happened to her?
First of all, what happened to the cabbages is that so many cabbages, they even got spoiled on the farm.
Yes.
Why? I learned this much later. And that was one of the reasons why I started Afarmers, is because then I did not know of the market.
Yeah.
I did not know that when I was going to harvest the cabbages, some of the big farms in Naivasha were harvesting cabbages and selling cabbages at 8 shillings. I did not focus on my cost of production. Then I planted 6 acres of cabbages as a first-time cabbage farmer. So I did not have the knowledge that I should have planted an acre. Exactly. So there's nobody gave me the knowledge. Yeah. Whoever I went to buy seeds from told me these are the best cabbages.
Wherever good yield,
yes,
good produce.
Exactly. So I didn't focus on the market. I didn't think, where would I sell? I didn't know when to start looking for the market. Then I did not explore, because I was waiting for buyers to come. So I did not think, probably I can put them I can hire a truck or a pickup and take to the market and sell. Yeah. So I was stuck. So I did not have knowledge. I was closed-minded.
But where would one get that knowledge from? Where, if I'm a budding somebody who wants to start farming tomorrow, where is my first port of call? Where do I go?
So it is my responsibility as a farmer.
Yes.
It is my responsibility as a farmer, first of all, even to identify, where am I growing these cabbages, for which market.
Yes.
Then that is where I say the extension officer comes in very handy, because this extension officer is the one who should also be the person who protects the farmer, knowing if there are brokers coming in my ward, what are they manipulating farmers? Because remember, it is a responsibility. Food production, rather food security, is a responsibility of a government. So then the national government and the county governments, they have a responsibility to see how do we protect our farmers so that we can be food secure. If you go to our neighboring countries, you cannot just go and buy produce. You have to go and register at a ward representative, the kijiji, a village representative, knowing that this is my vehicle. This is, and in fact, when you go there
to buy produce,
yes. In fact, when you go there, you cannot go there with a Kenya number registration number. No, you will go there and you'll be told you have to use our vehicles. I was in Johannesburg and I went to the Marikiti.
Yes.
And the farmers deliver produce. You're told this is the price for today. And it is a price that has been set, not by the brokers. However, the remaining produce, if you want to sell it quickly, then you auction it. And you receive your check. It's not like here you take produce, the broker decides.
Yeah, the mercy of the broker. Honestly,
exactly.
Or of the purchaser.
However, we also remember the 3 examples of the doctors. There's a doctor who is very good at treating patients. They talk to the patients properly. And then there's this other one who manages the doctors. Then there's one who manages the hospital. So we as farmers also need to know what is our responsibility. However, we also need something that brings us together so that then we can start discussing. And not discussing only the challenges, discussing and sharing opportunities. Opportunities would be like, I've got a contract to plant cabbages. So instead of me planting 6 acres of cabbages, I look for my 6 neighbors so that we can all plant at least an acre of cabbages. So that in case this contract is successful, then the next crop we can also do the same. Instead of going at a loss of 75,000 cabbages, I would have just gone at a loss of probably 15,000 cabbages.
What happened then? So I'm taking you back to this contract for cabbages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what happened is that the buyer, I contacted the buyer again, and it was a written contract. I have it framed, by the way.
Yeah.
And she said that this was 2 years later.
Yeah.
She said by the time we had agreed at 30 shillings per cabbage, she was taking it to one of government institutions in Rift Valley.
Yeah.
And Naivasha, they were selling at 8 shillings. There was no way she was coming to Kamulu.
Yeah.
There was no way. But she just did not know how to explain it to me. But at the same time, which I learned much later, is I would have taken those cabbages. I was in Kamulu. I would have taken those cabbages to Thika or Garissa. They was fetching at 150 shillings. So this I came to learn much later.
If only life was lived backwards.
Yes. So there was no information. We don't have a portal or a platform with all this money having been pumped in Agritech of a portal where farmers say, today in my area,
they can exchange
this
information.
This is the price.
Yes.
So we wait. We are at the mercy of the brokers, and we have accepted that is the price. That is where we get our prices from.
Yeah. And we don't want to do anything about it, clearly.
We'd really love to do. And that's why I go back and say, what is the role of you as a farmer? What is your responsibility? What would you like to do? And for me, one thing I believe that, I stand corrected, but I don't think farming is for everyone. In fact, I normally say farming is like marriage. Yeah. It's not for everyone. Why I say that is because farming is hard work, Joe. It is a lot of work. Yeah. Farming exposes you to risks that you'd never imagine. Because when you lose a tomato crop this season, you've lost everything. You've lost your investment, you've lost your income, you have lost even money that you would have reinvested back to the farm. So it is a risk business. Then there's our education system. I think that cuts across the whole world. The education system in agriculture is for someone to grow crops. But it has not been transformed into a business case.
Yes.
So it has not been. It's transformed like. In fact, when agronomists, which quite a number of them normally ask me, please, is it possible for you to link us up with farmers? We can manage their farms and all that. I'm like, okay, interesting. And I have a model, and I always tell them, I can give you 1 acre of land, fully under irrigation, with all inputs. Can you manage it? Then we split the cost. They'll say no. Because our system is for them to work somewhere. And not to produce ourselves. So we've not, nobody has thought about it as a business.
Yes.
So when we get into farming, we think of, I will have very good yield of, crops and all that. However, we don't even think yet of how to sell. So we'll then look for a broker to come and sell and get the best out of our sweat. Yeah.
You said that whole episode of the 75,000 cabbages, which was one of your first things you did when you started farming.
Yes.
Led you to start this Afarmers TV.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what is Afarmers TV and what does it do? Who does it serve?
Yeah. So I will go back to the 75,000 cabbages. It was late in October and it was raining. So even carrying the cabbages from the farm to the market was crazy. It was a nightmare. I remember I sat down one day and thought, because I had read about farming in the global south.
Yeah.
And I heard about farmers committing suicide because of not being able to sell to market. Before that, I was used to, small losses, but this one really hit me because I knew at the end of the day, at the end of that crop, I will have close to 2.1, 2.3 million shillings. And it was October, November, then family would go to Costo.
Yes. You already booked your red-made plans, at least in your mind.
I didn't even know how to explain it.
Yeah. So
but my wife just kept on asking me, did you manage to sell the cabbage?
So, there are many issues here then. There's mental health, dignity. There's so many things that we take for granted. Yeah.
Because we think of farming as, I will grow crops in 3 months, I will sell.
Yeah.
So we don't think about...
In fact, in 3 months, I'll have money in my pocket.
Exactly.
We don't even think we are.
But we don't even know how we'll sell it. See, if you bring something, if you go and invest in something, for example, you traveled probably to China, brought some things because you know a market.
Yes.
If you bring tiles,
you brought something that has already got a buyer.
Exactly.
Yes.
But farming, everybody's eating. I think in Nairobi, alone, Nairobi metropolitan, we need to feed like close to 8 million people.
Yes.
So if it's 8 million people, Joe, and I'll tell you about a lot of, I hope we're still on time.
Yeah, no, please.
And you realize that then there's a big disconnect. 8 million people, at least each person should eat half an onion.
Yes.
And so half an onion means at least 4 million onions. With each at 400 grams, it means that we need close to 40 tons of onions per day.
Do we produce that?
Yes, we can produce that. But how come farmers are saying there's no market? So let's go back to the cabbages. So what happened is I started thinking, I was still young, I could bounce back. But for me, again, I was also doing, I was going through the design process of, so this is why farmers fail. Because a lot of time when we're interviewing farmers or visiting farmers, they're like, yeah, yes. But you realize when you interview this farmer this season, next season, there's nothing on their farm. But they don't want to accept that they failed. No. So for them, it is, we don't sit down and analyze what went wrong. We're like, we'll start again. So you find this season, I harvested, but I did not get even my returns. Next season, I don't have money. But the next season, since I have some money from somewhere, I will still go back to the farm.
And it's the same.
So it's a cycle.
Same cycle.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why you don't find a farmer who has grown tomatoes for 10 years. No, it's impossible. In fact, I don't think I have come across a farmer, especially smallholder farmers, who have grown a crop for 3 years in a row. No. And so what happened is that now I went back and said, no, I will pause on farming a bit. However, I still bought seeds and we always go back.
You can't get out. You can't get out. That's what I tell people. Once in, it's like there's no exit.
So what happened is I said I will reduce, instead of doing 6 acres, I will reduce that and start doing other crops. So there's all that thing of diversifying, do different crops. But again, the other things that were there are costs involved. There's knowledge that was required. I'm really grateful to some of the extension officers and agronomists, who most of them are sales-based agronomists, who really helped me. I remember after the cabbages, I took a pause for at least, I think it was 6 months. Then I went back and planted.
And that was recovery time.
Yes. However, this is when I realized it was recovery time. I didn't think it was recovery time. I just thought I didn't have more money to put in back to the farm.
Yeah.
And so I said no. I started doing capsicum and I did really good. It's actually one of my best crops. And the lady who used to buy from me from Roy Market actually asked me, how come you don't harvest capsicum twice a week? I told her it is impossible. In fact, for her, she thought when I harvest and go, my guys harvest theirs and sell. But I was like, no, I'm sometimes here for 3-4 days, so they can't sell. She asked me in Kiswahili, umepima mchanga? Have you tested your soil? I looked at her like, why? What is that?
Yeah, exactly. You kazi yako ni kupanda.
What is...
Yes.
I didn't see the need, because what going round amongst farmers is soil testing is expensive. In fact, it was not even something that was being discussed. Then I thought, okay. So I called one of the agronomists and I asked her, there's this, I've been asked to test soil. Do you think it is important? He's like, yeah, you've been doing farming blindly. No. You don't even know what is in your soil. So you might get something this season. Next season, you don't get anything. Because this season probably you've grown beans. So the next season, whatever you harvest will be good because the legumes have boosted nitrogen in the soil. So if you plant, by chance that you are planting a new crop, it will have good yield. But after that, the next crop will not succeed because you don't even know what you're putting on the crop. I was like, okay, that's interesting. So that's my journey into being Africa Soil Health Ambassador started.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because then I started thinking I should do something about this. Then I tested my soil, and it was a game changer, Joe. It was a game changer because I learned so much about my soil to the extent that even now there are seasons that pass without me even putting manure on the soil because I realized I needed my soil to rest. Yeah. So the cabbages, we're still in the cabbages. So the cabbages, what happened is that it taught me, and why I was very disappointed, it led me to now posting on Facebook.
Yes. Okay.
And said, I can't take this alone.
You are bearing your soul.
Yes. So I said, no, let me release this. And that's when I shared. I remember I shared in my profile and said, who else has gone through this? Where can we get information about markets? Where can we get information about agronomists? Just within our radius. My thinking was one agronomist to serve 20 farmers, just within a radius, so that as and when I need that support or my farm workers to be trained, they would get that. So that is when I said, no, I need to start something. I checked around some of the farming groups on Facebook. They were there active, really good information, but not organized. So I asked myself, what can I do? So I thought and opened, that's when I started Africa Farmers Club. So the goal for Africa Farmers Club was to get 1,000 farmers at Machakos and Nairobi. Just small, or just
which were your areas of operation?
Exactly. For me, it was to get information for my farm, but also to probably be the person where people would put the information and others benefit from it. So I told myself, probably in 3 months, we can get 1,000, and then we can organize ourselves in a way. But at the same time, I also needed more information. So I went to one of the universities and applied to do, at that time, it was a really hot course. It was called agribusiness. And then I got a regret. They told me, you are not qualified for this course. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I remember 1 month later, I was called from the same university and asked, you have been a farmer? Because when I applied the form, then I put pictures of my farm and explained why I needed that course, although being a mature student. So they asked me, can we bring our students for attachment to your farm? And I was like, this is interesting. These guys are going to teach me because they're coming from the university.
Yeah.
So when they came, I remember they got 6 of them, but 2 of them came in suits. And I told them, no, I think you need to go and change and come back dressed for this setup. Because I was coming from a wearing suits background to the farm. So I did not see why you needed to come for an interview. Yeah. So, but what then I told myself, I will, as much as I would want them to also learn about the farming, I also want them to develop some new skills. So I told them, this group, we are going to, so 3 of them said, we agree that we're going to help manage the group, Africa Farmers Club, to bring in the information that they need, that they have from the university, and also help farmers get information as quick as possible. Joe, in 3 months, we had 16,000 people in the group. Fast forward, so I did not have agricultural background in me at that time. So I had very little to share apart from my own experiences and the experience of the farmers I was visiting. But then we had farmers from Zambia, farmers from Botswana, farmers from
through
Uganda.
The university?
No, not through the Africa Farmers Club, the Facebook group now, Facebook, from the network now.
Group,
Then that's when I decided to transform my small farm in Kinanie into a...
That's near my farm. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I'm in Kinanie.
Oh,
yes.
Interesting.
Okay.
So I decided to transform that into a small area where farmers could come and see.
Yeah.
But not just that, but also now we were getting some students from agriculture colleges coming to learn. They get to work there for 3 months. And since sometimes we had already had them, so farmers would ask, can you bring some of these students to our farm? So different farmers would be able to get that. So fast forward, 2017, the group had grown to around, I think, 60,000. So we had really organized Mondays. We were discussing Farm Plan Monday, Tuesday diagnostics, Wednesday was about markets, which was up to now is one of the most is a topic that most farmers want to discuss, but with very little information, despite them selling to markets. Then Thursday was just Sauti ya Mkulima, and then on Friday was Ask the Expert. So that was the Diagnostics Tuesday and Ask the Expert was really the days that people really were interested. And it wasn't like now where we had live and studios. Yeah. It was actually doing it while typing.
Wow.
And let me tell you, Joe, I used to post on that Africa Farmers Club because it was new. Social media. In fact, many people were asking me which farmers will be on social media. I used to post 12 posts every day on the group.
And get engagement.
And a lot of engagement. Up to now, I still do post 12 posts every day. But one thing is because when we were starting to farm, there was very limited information. The information that was there was academic.
Yes.
I remember I had the Form 2 and Form 3 textbooks for agriculture that I used to now refer to because somebody would ask a question when there's no expert online.
Yes.
So I had to now make sure that at least I can give some information based on my experience and what I've studied.
Yeah.
So I went back and studied agriculture, which I'd never done in life. And because I really wanted to know how I can help farmers. So I decided, in 2017, I took up a course. I took up a BSc in agriculture, but focusing on soil health. But because now I was a father, I was farming, I decided to do it online. So when I did it online, it was very interesting because when I did it online, I learned a lot about soil health.
Yes.
A lot of information. Joe, we have very limited information about our soil. In fact, the soil map in Kenya was the last time we did soil mapping, I think it was in 1970s. So we don't understand. And that's why if you see my recent campaigns is no soil test, no fertilizer.
And that is why our yields have been consistently dropping over the years, amongst
despite us having subsidized fertilizer.
Yes. Subsidized, yes.
Yes, exactly. But now, why did we start Afarmers TV? This actually came during COVID. We could not visit farmers anymore. And I was sitting in the office and I was asking myself, what do we do? That's when we transformed one of the offices into, and I said, just talking to farmers, yes. Yeah. And then we, because of interactions with Facebook, they enabled me to be able to do lives at that time. At that time, we were 150,000 people, everybody asking for information. I remember I had two lines where one was constantly it was like a call center.
Dedicated to fielding questions.
But I, as much as I had information as a farmer with now my soil health knowledge, I didn't have a lot. And that's when we started partnering with some other organizations to be able to see how can we help farmers diagnose this and we couldn't visit farmers because of the lockdown. And that's when now I decided to start talking to farmers. It grew. It has done a lot. We have done a lot, but I still go back to some basics. That despite all this, we need to make agriculture. We need to take it a bit serious. So we have had the conference of CADAP.
Which is
so CADAP is it's like a policy that brings governments to commit a certain percentage. Mm-hmm. So the commitment was supposed to be any government, the national or county, should commit 10% of their revenue to agriculture. And
was that commitment made?
It has never been made. In fact, one of the counties that tried this is in Kenya is Nyeri County at 4%.
That's the best.
That's the best. But again, I say, and I think you asked me, why is agriculture failing? For me, I think agriculture is failing because we've not taken care of the professionals in the industry. The young people coming out looking for jobs and farmers saying, I cannot grow crops. We have not taken them a bit serious. We have not held their hands to even train them on the new technologies. We have not supported these young people. So if we don't support the young people who have taken their time to study agriculture, and yet we say we want to make agriculture attractive to the youth, there's a disconnect.
It's a disconnect.
Yes.
And that's where you feel technology can play a big part in attracting the youth and in helping agriculture to grow or bolstering agriculture.
Yes. And in fact, technology is not only sometimes I think we think about technology and think about the very big things. Probably just the small things. Probably just to make sure that each extension officer has a soil moisture tester, and they have a portable soil testing, so that by the time they reach your farm, they can do a very quick test and tell you, this is where the problem probably is. Probably they have information about pest control that right at that point, where they can be able to say, using this picture, this is what you're going through. instead of that, we have most of the agronomists who have been, and it's not a bad thing, it's business, but they are more of sales based. So they'll sell to you the best seeds, the best. Then the other technologies would be climate smart related technologies.
Yeah.
Water harvesting
Yes.
is something that is critical. Apart from water harvesting, right crop, right soil. For me, I believe, I normally joke and say I'm like the pediatrician
Yes.
of agriculture. The first 2 months
Are the critical months.
that is a very critical month, because that is the point where you need to know where are you putting your crop in.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we talk about climate smart agriculture, but I think we really need to be serious about climate smart agriculture. We can see it happening.
What is climate smart agriculture for those who may not understand? What is it?
So climate smart agriculture is basically practicing agriculture based on the latest climatic changes across the world. So it is very simple, and I think it is very simple. However, I think we haven't focused on it so much. For example, if I'm growing short-term crops, do I understand the weather? So that's something else I wanted to mention about technology. How many of the young people who are agronomists, or even the older ones, focus on things like weather? Because weather is the determining factor for everything. Almost everything.
But one thing we now are learning is that you can't predict the weather. And with the changes in the climatic patterns or conditions, for example, it rained in January.
Yes.
This year. When was the last time that happened?
Yes, but I will tell you for sure. For me, at my farm, I knew it would rain.
Oh.
In fact, I know next week on Tuesday, it will rain.
And how do you know this?
Because it is freely available.
Do you have a tool, or do you?
Yeah, so there are quite a number of tools that are out there.
Okay.
However, even if you just go and type, for me, I type, in fact, I think if you look at my phone, if you go to my Google search, I have two main searches. Okay. I have a 7-day weather for my farm and a 10-day weather for my farm.
What is the level of accuracy of those tools?
So then that is where now that needs to be focused on, because the level of accuracy is close to 80%. It's close to 80%. And why 80% is because you need to understand it. It's just the same way with soil test. Yeah. When you get the soil test, if you're not careful, you will overlook some things. You will look at the main macro elements, the phosphorus, but you'll not look at things like magnesium, things like zinc that enable your crop or your the fruits to be sweet enough. Yeah. So that is where I think the focus should really go into, in getting to understand. You can imagine why. I mean, weather is not only good for the plants, but the plants also use weather. So if they can predict the weather of how the weather is out there, it's the same weather down here. So that's the other thing about climate smart agriculture. It also has an effect on our soils, because then you will be able to know which crop can I grow to help me regenerate my soil, so that as and when I need my crop to be healthy, even if we talk about drought tolerant crops, they need to get some healthy soil down there. Yeah. If they don't get healthy soil, it's impossible. Then we need to stop the fadism thing of I need to grow onions to make money quickly. Yeah. Probably why don't you just grow nduma? Yeah. Do you know that arrowroots is very expensive in Nairobi?
Yeah.
But you don't find farmers growing it because it doesn't look very nice to grow. Yeah. You know, if you tell somebody I grow nduma and they are like, really?
But is the demand as high as it is for onions? Is the question.
I think the demand is high. That is why a kilo of nduma is 100 shillings and a kilo of onions is 30 shillings. So disconnect there. You know, yeah.
Although there are variations, but I get your point. It's true. We concentrate on the crops that we are told
are high value crops.
Are high value. Yeah.
But at the same time, these real high value crops, the cost of the seeds for these high value crops is
the inputs are very high.
Probably even 8 times what our neighbors are growing.
That's very true. We can't compete.
Yeah, we cannot compete.
You know, we always hear the price of onions in Kenya depends on how many onions we import from Tanzania. You know, so
I will shock you. Tanzania gives us onions. In fact, if today onions in Kenya are selling at 100 shillings per kilo, the moment the Tanzania onions hits the market, it goes to even 30 shillings. Yeah. But not only Tanzania. We have onions coming from Ethiopia. We have onions coming from Egypt, right here in our country. We have onions that are being grown in Mount Elgon, and the onion size is really small. So they don't require the hybrid onions. So the hybrid onions, whatever you grow that is hybrid is really good. However, then you need to make sure that that hybrid onion meets very healthy soil so that your yield is double of what you should be getting. Yeah.
So soil, today I've learned a lot about soil is very important. Tell me this term that I saw in your profile, carbon sequestration.
Interesting. So carbon sequestration, I think it's a very interesting term.
Yes.
And why it's interesting is because farming is direct. Farming is an industry that is directly connected to the climate. However, I think how it has been packaged as a business. And where I also don't agree with a lot of the climate-related discussions is because when it came to Africa, I'll say, to Africa, because I've engaged with quite a number of farmers in Africa, it was, if you grow this, you make this money. So it was not linked directly to their soil. So in fact, most of the time you hear carbon credits and you don't hear about carbon sequestration.
Yeah.
And where you don't hear about we only hear about carbon credits is because you earn credits from the carbon. But nobody's saying that, yes, the importance of, first of all, you as a farmer of growing these trees, yes, it's for carbon, but the carbon helps your soil. So you get better yields, you get better crop, you get better returns, but over and above that, we still crown that with the credits. However, the other thing is the carbon credits and the carbon discussion is not being fair to African farmers because we are being paid peanuts for the mess that these other guys have caused.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So when they've already messed up the climate, but we are being paid peanuts for this, and yet we are still being subjected to tariffs when we want to export our produce. It does not make sense. So the only way it would make sense is if we in Kenya or in Africa can be able to grow our crops, process and pack and sell processed. That's when we can be able to say, then we're getting benefit from it. But I don't understand why coffee lives here, goes out there, comes back packaged, and it's just our coffee. Yeah. I was in Brazil the other day, and they have imported coffee seedlings from Kenya. And they have very good coffee. I actually even came with coffee.
Yes.
And it was really nice.
And the origination
is here. Yeah. Yes. So that is something else. We have not understood that needs to be done.
So what does carbon sequestration mean? You've explained to us a little bit about the carbon credits and
So carbon sequestration, it means that the atmosphere has been damaged.
Yes.
Our environment has been damaged, the climate. And that is the reason why we see this erratic climate changes, rains in January when it shouldn't be raining. Yes. The weather patterns are really changing and all that. And why it is directly related to farming is because it is said that farming is also a very huge cause of carbon emissions, and which is true, which is absolutely true. In fact, I farm in Kajiado, and when you see how the land is grazed, it's really damaging. Nothing else can grow. In fact, where cows will pass, nothing will grow. So what we have not done is that we've not told ourselves that then we need to move from what we are doing. And we don't need to move from what we're doing. We just need to improve. Okay. So basically, and that's why you find the countries that have really developed in agriculture, they have grazelands, areas for grazing,
Yeah.
So they grow fodder for themselves. They grow climate, drought-tolerant fodder. And you don't find, and this drought goes across the world, but in the areas that have really improved, if you look at South Africa, you look at Botswana, they don't have cows dying during drought. I mean, Botswana, part of it is a desert.
Desert, yeah.
But you find that the really high, good quality meat comes from there. But in Kenya, when drought hits us 6 months, a cow that was being sold at 100,000 is at 10,000. Yeah. So carbon sequestration is basically at regenerating our soils to produce better while repairing our soils.
Good. Now, as we come to the end, I have a couple of questions. Number one, you visited over 6,000 farms.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that you've seen from especially smallholder farmers? What are the success stories? What are the things you see consistently? What do successful farmers do consistently well?
Successful farmers do what you've just mentioned. They're consistent.
Okay.
So if they grow onions, first of all, they understand the market.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing, they've understood their role in the ecosystem. So most of them have understood that they are producers.
Yes.
And they focus on production. I'll mention one farmer that I really enjoy talking to and visiting. This farmer is called William Kereto. Mm-hmm. This farmer is in Mailtisa, near Namanga. Mm-hmm. This farmer actually even went and repaired a community borehole so that he could get water on their farm. This farmer has paid school fees from the farm. He has sold some of his cows to be able to make sure that the horticulture part of the farm is really progressing. He's so consistent in what he does that if you need to know what is the price of produce in an area, you will ask him, he'll tell you, don't plant this now. The other thing that other successful farmers have done is that they seek knowledge throughout. And why do they seek knowledge? Is because they've transformed their mindset from being a farmer into a business person. So they know that the broker is not an enemy. The broker is is somebody very important in the value chain. I can also say probably myself being a successful farmer, and this has come after paying a very huge price.
By accident. No,
yes. Is that I am present on my farm. I am present on my farm at least 3 days a week. And if I'm not there, what I've done is that I've set structures that the guys on the farm, anything that they do is not right, they will feel it. In fact, they will call me and say, we did this, but it's because we did not understand how you explained it to us. And that is the reason why we are now setting up the Afarmers Agritech and Leadership Center, where we want to equip young people with modern skills and getting to understand. The other thing is also good use of technology. Good use of technology would be one, technology. How do you use technology that is available to get information? So are you on social media to understand what people are going through? Then the other thing is that remember when it comes to a business person, sometimes you have to be the producer, but also the marketer. So you also need to understand, even if you're not going to sell to the market, you have a broker who will pay the higher price, something like that. And then the thing that most successful farmers have done, that I've seen both small scale and large scale, is that they simply know their soil. They've done their soil test at least once every 3 years and understand what they're putting in the soil. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you do, finally, can we come and visit your farm? Do you do farm visits?
Yes. Okay.
Yes. And how far away from Nairobi is your farm?
It's a 2-hour drive.
It's a 2-hour
but
drive.
It's a 2-hour drive of very nice. You really enjoy the views as you go there. Yeah. Apart from visiting a farm, there are also quite a number of other farmers that you'll be able to interact with, because that is our industry. That's why you find there are conferences for doctors, conferences for lawyers, but also farmers. We need those that we have actually, and I've seen that in Botswana, South Africa. They do it themselves. You see farmers saying, we're not going to pay even a hotel. We're going to meet at a farmer. Yeah. And then I will bring this, we'll just have a discussion. So when you come to the farm, there's a lot that you can see there.
Good.
Yes.
I look forward to visiting your farm soon.
Karibu sana.
And you're a true farmer because you even brought me some produce from your farm, for which I'm very, very grateful.
Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
Asante. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Today we had a chance to talk to Noah Nasiali, who's an agritech innovator and social entrepreneur. And he told us the importance about how to be a successful farmer and his emphasis on soil. He's also very interested in the whole climate action space. And I think we got a lot of nuggets on how to conduct our farming and how we must be present, understand the markets. These are recurring things we're hearing, but we hope all this will help us to become better farmers. So as we sign off, we thank you for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode of the Accidental Farmer Podcast, a podcast that gives you the real dirt on farming.